Hello, community, and welcome back to another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita podcast. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, C-Suite Trusted Advisor, Board Director, and Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Consultant, helping members of the C-Suite and their teams reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. I am so glad to have Ms. Jill Angel joining us again. She is the Chief People Officer at TrueCar, and we're just having some real conversations from the C-Suite about growing up as women of color and what that means in the workplace today. Jill, thank you so much for coming back and joining me again.
Dr. Anita, I had so much fun in the first episode, so I'm really looking forward to the second. Thank you.
I am too, because I'm just going to ask you to open up about that conversation that we started at the Stanton Chase dinner. And I just want you to give me a short synopsis about how you just even felt comfortable in talking to me, someone you'd never met before, about something that had just recently transpired at work.
Well, first of all, it was easy because I felt an instant connection to you when I first met you.
Thank you.
But your story really resonated with me because as I listened to your story, I realized that not on purpose as I alienated one of my employees. And to give you more context, she is single-handedly leading the DEI efforts for TrueCar. And that's a really difficult position to be in when you feel sometimes it's all on you. And just having the I wouldn't say burden, but just the responsibility of leading the DEI effort. I mean, because it means so much for the company. It means so much to her personally. But, we've had some recent changes and updates within our organization. And with that, change is hard for our employees. And because she is who she is and everyone feels comfortable talking to her, often she is finding herself where, employees are coming to her with their concerns. And when she explained to me how she was feeling, and I didn't hear it first, because I also heard her say how she can understand why they're feeling this way because she sometimes feels this way. Instead of me taking a moment and really listening to what she was saying, I went right into that leader mode. Okay, how can I help and coach and support her and her role and not as a person?
Yeah.
And as much as I feel like I'm always supporting her in her efforts, knowing I can't walk in her shoes, but I try to walk side by side whenever I can. But because I went right into how can I help you as a leader? What words to say to these employees? I did not hear her. And I could tell she was hurt. And I wonder if I came across being defensive, because I must have. And didn't pay attention to how she was feeling. And it was around Black History Month and some changes on top of that, some changes around the organization. And so to give you some more context is that we have these awesome backdrops that our marketing team gives to each of an employee that we can showcase in the back. It's a background. And it was a Black History background. And I usually have it up all the time, but sometimes in the middle of the day, my internet connection goes bad, and sometimes I have to take it off. So I happened to take it off, and I felt like she even felt like I wasn't supporting her even more so because I didn't have my background. Yeah. And I know it's the small things, but those things matter. And I just, in that moment when you were describing your story, it really hit me really hard that I did not show up for her.
Yeah. I want to applaud you for having that recognition. And I refer to that as leading by unpacking. And what I mean by that is the awareness of, in that moment, you missed the mark in managing intent with impact, as we all do, as I do, because we're human beings, we're people. And sometimes we just miss the mark. But the fact that you were actively that night and right now leading by unpacking says, I'm role modeling, I'm leading by unpacking something that happened so that I can share my lesson learned and so that you can learn along with me. And I'm role modeling what I want you to do as well. As a leader, it does not mean we expect you to be perfect. Far from it. As a leader, it means we expect you to lead by unpacking when things don't go well, looking at it, not to beat yourself up, but to say, what can I learn from this? Sharing that with your team so that everyone can move forward together. Again, I applaud you for that. And that's what I really try to encourage leaders to do, is to lead by unpacking, especially when we're talking about the work of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. When you have that aha moment that says, I could have done this differently, and here's why, that is so worth sharing, because nobody community is going to get this right all the time. We are human. And I really appreciate you sharing that. And I also want to clarify, is this young woman that you're talking about, is she African American?
Yes, she is.
So part of the challenge, and now I'm just going to share my experience, is that sometimes when you show up to do this work, depending on what you have just personally experienced, you're walking in there as one person with two sides. This side says, as an African American woman, this has just impacted me, but I've got to make sure that I manage that I sometimes compartmentalize that to be there to provide the space for the folks that I'm here to serve. And for you to say, even having that background missing might have been sending a message that says, I'm not recognizing the fact that you're walking into this holding two sides at once. I'm just looking at this right here. So when you went into that conversation with her, how did that go?
She thanked me and she appreciated it. She really did. Because, the work is hard. It really is. And as much as I want to be there for her and say, okay, we're doing this together, I'm sure often she feels alone. And I want her to know that I see her. I may not understand exactly what she's going through, right? But I want to be next to her. And then please let me know how I can help. And that was another area, is that it came out later that our team in general could, can also help more and show up more for her. And she was very open with the team, which was also helpful, because now, everyone on the people side know that how we can help show up for her. And so she feels supported.
Just acknowledging that I have no idea what it's like to walk in your shoes, but I'm alongside you is huge. It's hugely important. And for the rest of the team to say the same thing, it's enough to say, we know your experience is different. We cannot imagine what your experience is, but we're here to walk alongside you. That makes a huge difference. How did you come to that realization, and what did that feel like for you?
Well, I think what really hurt it is when I was sitting there, all of my conversations with her over, since I started with the company, started to come back. And I wonder, as much as I feel like I'm supporting her, I just kind of hear I could see all of our Zoom calls, because we're remote. And it was hard. I couldn't wait to figure out how I was feeling and find the words to talk to her.
Yeah. When you mentioned that even the rest of the team acknowledged that her experience is different from anyone else's, but they're there to support her, that reminds me of the topic of the evening at the Stanton Chase Marsh dinner, where I talked about unpacking the BS that gets in the way of workforce belonging. And community by BS in that conversation was identified as people's backstories, bad stories that we've heard about a group of people, the blind spots that we have, and how all three of those things can influence the organizational belief system. Which one of those things do you think came into play for the team to say, yeah, you know what, we're with you. We don't understand what that means to be you, but we're with you. Do you think it was someone's backstory, a bad story that they've heard about a group of people, or a blind spot that had the potential of influencing the organizational belief system in your organization, in your group?
I want to believe it's a blind spot. I want to believe it's a blind spot based on the outcome where the team, and I'm just talking about, some of my direct reports, made it a point to have some time with her, to tell her in person that, I don't know if you know this, but we're here to support you. Please let us know how we can. Sometimes we need explicit to be told, because we, as much as we want to be in the moment, sometimes we get too busy and not think about it. I think also what came out of it is that the team sometimes do not know what they don't know, and that we needed training, additional training. I think everyone in the company needs training, and that's our goal, but especially the people team, because I think if anything, everyone in my team feel like they want to support, but if they're not sure how, they don't want to show up in the wrong way.
That's amazing. That's incredible. I applaud you, and I know that you're going to do well. I'm sitting here thinking about names, and excuse me, community, but I'm just going to have a human moment here. A lot of times people talk about my last name and, oh, your last name is so cool, and are you polite, and all this other stuff. I just have to say, Jill Angel, I love your name and the fact that you just really are just showing up as an angel in the workplace. There's a book that is called Healing Career Wounds, and it's written by Rick Gerard. And it just talked about the fact that throughout our careers, we've been hurt. And in the workplace, it's important to have leaders and teams that are there to help us heal through our career wounds. We're not talking about leaders and teams becoming psychologists or psychiatrists or anything like that, but the healing that comes from just listening to someone, asking what type of support they need, and providing it. So I want to thank you again for role modeling how to just really show up for your team. It's just a delight to have you with us. And next time, community, when Jill comes back, we're going to be talking about what kind of leader is most effective in balancing their own culture and belonging in the workplace. Until the next time, I want to thank you for joining me for another real conversation from the C-suite with Jill Angel, the Chief People Officer at TrueCar. To learn about my services and resources, please go to my website at dranita.com. Remember, you do have to spell out the word doctor. While you're there, click on the media link so that you can hear this podcast or any of my previous podcasts. And you can also find me on your favorite podcast player. So please get in the flow, follow, like, and overshare any conversation that helps you reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. Share it with your network. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real.